All right, we're recording. All right, hi, this is Team 3, and we are going to go ahead and start by discussing case study 1. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and start with the first question. Question number 1 says, how would you reintroduce vertical articulation and the concept of PLCs?
One of the things that I would do with that particular school is get one member from each grade level and first have a conversation and have it based on a voluntary basis of who would like to be a part of or sign up for that whatever particular PLC that is going along with what they believe. And make it convenient, but at the same time also make it to a point where they have to get work done and be data driven as well. But I would get a representative from each grade level.
Okay, yeah, for the vertical team.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking too that the vertical teams could meet once a month. That it wouldn't be something that they would have to do every week.
Right.
Um, you know,
More about making sure that we have an establishment. You have to make sure that they're established
right,
what the biggest deal is then, that's, because yeah, with the case study, it was talking about how they were saying, well, there's too many meetings. So you don't want to push too many meetings on them with that. But you want to make sure that, the bad thing about it is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how much you don't want to be meetings. You're going to have something of a meeting. You really
right,
do. And
definitely.
one of the things that I was thinking about was to get that vertical. You could really, like, you can maybe do an establishment of like a Google Drive for the school. And if
Mhm.
you establish a Google Drive for the school, then what you could do is, you could have them find some way to put all their lesson plans in the school. So that, hey, if teacher A in sixth grade wants to look at teacher B in seventh grade and say, okay, well, what's the math going to do in seventh grade compared to what it does in sixth grade? You maybe don't even have to go face to face with that. All you have to do is go to that Google Drive and just break out their lesson plans. Hey, last week they did this, and now I got to do this to build on top of that, and just maybe so even just to introduce that without face to face, but you're really going to have that first meeting, that initial meeting at the beginning of the year to make sure that everybody understands, hey, this is what we got to do, and kind of like establish the ground rules of what you're expecting.
Right.
Yeah, and I also think that being like very task oriented and like meeting for a purpose, not just meet to be meeting. So I think if you give people like a reason and a particular goal in mind, a particular task, I think they're more receptive to meeting, knowing that there's an outcome, that there's some kind of solution to a problem that they're working toward, or some kind of specific outcome that they are working to get. Like you said, all those things you said are good, but I was just considering, the history of this particular school.
It seems like there's a fine line. When I was reading things, it seemed like there was a real fine line between what this school needed and what with all these meetings and that sort of stuff. It's almost like, hey, how the school used to be, even though the morale was bad, they had the um, stuff in place for that vertical breakdown, where now whenever that morale, he worked on the morale, and then now there's that the vertical isn't there anymore. So
I think that they had too much going on. It was
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
too much going
And
on.
I think that also when people realize the impact and the importance of a vertical teaming, they're more interested in doing it. They realize that if you do it right, how it can really impact you and your teaching, your classroom, your
Right.
school. That how you work. If you work together, you'll get better results. When they could see that and experience that, I don't think it'll be an issue to get them to get them to meet, later, because they'll see the importance. They'll value it more. So trying to get added value by having them to do it, I think will make a difference too in the long run. But again, just getting them going initially, you may have to kind of walk them through that process initially.
And also too, I think it's pretty much the same thing with PLCs as well. I think that the main thing that I would discuss with is that it's driven by data, and the data is where you're going to start, and that the focus should be on one goal at a time. Also, and and how you do that is by this is what we learned about PLCs, how you pinpoint that problem, and then you can create an action plan to address that problem, and then progress monitor, as needed.
Do you think that one of the things that I was looking at in the first school, they were talking about how the vertical teaming kind of went away and people were starting to plan together, kind of like what you said, Heath, with the where you could do like a Google Drive or a Team Drive and set up something like that. But I still kind of feel too that, going back to what we said earlier, that there's a significant need to have a vertical team.
Oh my gosh, is that my computer?
I would still include that also.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all want to move on to question 2? Oh my gosh, my internet is messing up. I might have to get somebody else.
And then they just can keep that moving on up through too.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for interdisciplinary and projects, and I'm actually struggling with that though with the PLC that I'm doing, because I'm trying to encourage high school teachers to do it, and that is always a struggle at the high school level.
Oh, my computer acting up.
But
Why is it doing audio now? Can y'all hear me? This computer is acting up.
Her school, she learned a great lesson, and that was that you had to you got to have a conversation with people. You can't just throw them into the process, and that's kind of what happened. They just, before anything, it sounds like it was one of those district mandates where they just said, hey, you know what, you're gonna have a PLC and that's it. And they went head on and they developed PLCs for everything, and they just got inundated. And so it became just a tired word. It became it became stress. So when the principal came in and said, hey, I'm just taking away all that. I'm gonna take all that away. I think the way you would reintroduce that though is what DuFour does is she has a conversation with them the summer before. She gets all the groups together that would be working together and just sits them down, and no punitive conversation, no threat, no nothing. They just sit down and they talk about what they want to see happen in the school. And out of that is birthed commonality. because we don't have a punishment here. We're not writing anything down necessarily. We're just having a conversation. And out of that conversation then comes where we start talking, because actually the articulation piece is talking. We're just talking, we're communicating. We're actually wanting to communicate now. Whereas before we were separate, now we want to actually have a conversation. So what she did was she caused them to want to talk about, and people want to talk as long as they know they're not going to have to do a job later on. They want to talk. And so she opens the door and allows them to talk. And because they're able to talk about it, then when the summer is over and they come into the new school term, she says, okay, you remember that thing we talked about? Well, here's what we want to do with it. And I think as if you want to engender or get a desire for PLC to happen again, I think the best thing you can do is have that conversation first, and then and one of the other things she did was she put the vocabulary in there. She allowed them to, those words, introduce those words again, and allow those people to have that as part of their regular speech, part of their regular vernacular. And I think that's the one.
into number two there, why you guys, like you said, people want to talk, they don't want surprise. And if you surprise somebody with something that they have to do, and you tell somebody that they have to do, they're going to really react a lot more negative than what they were if they have that buy-in, like you guys were talking. If they sit down in that summer and they do that, they have that talk, that's great. What you want is you want them to have ownership of it, and I was saying, oh, hey, you do the ownership, and then you tell me what you want us to develop, and then we go to town, and then we make that happen.
There you
That's
go.
pretty much what it works out to be. So
that's excellent. Yeah.
All right, are we moving on to question 2?
I think we started a
Yeah,
little
we
bit.
kind of started.
That's what I say. We
All
kind
right,
of
so we're on question 3.
That works.
How do you ensure that the positive changes your schoolmates are sustained after you are gone? So what are y'all thinking? Oh, that again. Oh my God. Okay.
Saying what the literature on PLC says, what the successes show, and all that, and then just having the conversation and saying, hey, listen, this is where we are. This is what we've been talking about. This is how things have been flowing, and that way the regimes dovetail, as opposed to, oh, we're just not going to do that, and I'm just going to do my own thing. I think communication has to happen between the leadership as it changes.
Sure.
Yes, freezing again.
and how this has actually worked as far as the numbers. Like, hey, here's where our data comes in. I feel like the principal coming in afterward will say, you know what, this is something that I would like to continue. You have your employee, I don't want to say employee, but you have your staff buy-in. So they're gonna, once they're bought into the program or brought into ideas, they're willing to commit to it as well. And so, I mean, it will continue to flow. So I think that, like I said, data speaks there. and then making sure that you have your goals and your 5-year plan kind of set aside as well.
I think another strategy, having lead teachers to be like a huge part of this process, so that can help the new principal to continue to implement and whatever processes you have going, because they already know the system, and empowering them to lead and to continue
it. Whenever I was looking down through, with what Nathaniel said, to take a look at that, I actually went to a superintendent meeting last week, I think it was, and we have 2 principals that are, one of them's retiring and she's been there for about 30 years. And one of the biggest things that the people that were in that school keep saying is, we want to have that new principal sit down with us, and we want them to take a look at what that principal coming in wants to do. And if that principal kind of shares that same vision, and that's big time. And they brought up a great point, and I didn't even think of it this way, but there's a lot of people that said, hey, we got to figure out this early, because contracts are coming down, and I got to figure out whether or not, when this new principal comes in, is this somebody that I feel like is going to continue that vision? So it's really important to those teachers that are in that school, to figure out whether that vision is going to be the same. Like what you said, hey, is it going to dovetail? Is this principal going to take care of what that principal did? The one thing that I did notice in this study, in that scenario, is that it seemed like, hey, he was there for 3 years and he gained the trust, but it seemed like a lot of some of the other things, more the stuff that dealt with data and other stuff, it kind of went by the wayside though too. So whenever I was reading this, I was kind of hesitant to say, hey, you know what? Everything that this principal did, everything that you did when you became the principal was a positive. I think that you kind of need to step back and say, hey, there was some positives. The morale's boosted, the community, that communication's boosted.
Right.
But you know what? There's, something happened where everybody departmentalized, and that didn't seem like the best thing. So that new principal that kind of comes in, hey, we got to figure out, hey, we're going to take the best of what you did, and we're going to do this. But the one thing that says, hey, it says, I'm going to retire at the end of this year. I don't want the principal that's going to be in there retiring just doing a bunch of things just to say I left a lasting impact, and it's not the best thing for what the students need. And yeah, it's great because it leaves that lasting impact for those 3 months. It makes me look like a hero on my way out the door, but it really isn't sustainable whenever that new regime comes in, and it's not something maybe that we've really practiced over the long haul, and it's not sustainable over the long haul.
And I think you said a key word, students, because at the end of the day, it's like teachers have to see the relevance, the connection to what we're meeting for, why are we doing this? If they can see how that impacts student achievement, then typically it will become a part of the culture, because they know that it works. And at the end of the day, that's our goal. We want students to achieve.
Yep.
All right. Do we have time on this Zoom to go to the next one? Because it looks like it's 8:45 before it runs out on us.
Well, it's been freezing a little bit, so I don't.
Yeah.
Are y'all still recording on your end?
It says recording on
My
mine.
Zoom was freezing. I didn't stop it, but it was kind of going in and out. So I hope it recorded.
Maybe we just need to keep chugging along and see, and hopefully we can get it done in 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead on to scenario 2.
Okay.
And we will start with question 1. Okay, this one was talking about a teacher evaluation system. And question 1 says, what essential elements should be a part of your new evaluation system?
I think professionalism should definitely be a part of an evaluation system, of your teacher evaluation system. Not only showing up on time, but turning in your lesson plans, really sitting and going through lesson plans. I think those are critical. And then what are you doing to address your students of need? Those students, what are you doing for differentiation? All of those should be a part of evaluating what innovative tools are you using, technologies? How are you integrating across the curriculum? I feel like all of those should be a part of the evaluation system. And then again, I'm going back to numbers because of the PLC and what DeFore stood for, but also looking at your numbers as a teacher, like just growth. Am I as a teacher, have I seen growth throughout my year of being here? I think all of that should be a part of the evaluation.
I think too, just to kind of piggyback off you, I think that evidence that's provided in the evaluation of your teaching, I think that it needs to come from multiple sources. It shouldn't just be one place. Oh, this is what my students did during this one time. It should be multiple and different things that you have collected over time to, like you say, to show your growth. And I also believe that there should be a piece in there with constructive feedback, because you can easily break a person down if you talk to them, the wrong way. So I think that there needs to be a place where you address their strengths and then also give them those things that they need to, work on.
3 things.
And I think they also. Go ahead, Bonaparte.
No, I defer to you. Go ahead.
Well, in addition to what Candace said, having evidence of data inform instruction, like how is your data on a weekly, daily type basis informing your instruction? So providing that type of evidence, especially for common assessments or benchmark exams and things of that nature. So being able to talk about that data, analyze it, and being able to communicate with it. I find a lot of times that we talk a lot about data and data-driven instruction, but sometimes it doesn't, like, teachers don't make that connection. Some of them don't. And I think it's having it as a part of the evaluation is crucial to having the results we want in the classroom. So they really look at it and be able to discuss it, talk about it, even if it's just a verbal conversation about it, but bringing that data to the meeting. I actually had to do that in one of the schools, and it was very, very informative for me as a teacher. So I think that could be a part of the evaluation system.
Okay,
I'm gonna go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, just really quick, your professional development. A lot of times, we as teachers, we have a lot of professional development, and the thing is, how are you working that into your daily? How are you working that into? You're mixing that with your data and using the tools available to you to get the job done. Because sometimes we're given a tool, like for instance, our one-to-one initiatives in our school districts. Sometimes we get these things and they can either overcome you, or they can be, they can be an excellent tool in your arsenal. But how are you using it? How are you using the technology? How are you using the professional development? What are you doing with that to make sure that it gets the job done? And the job is making sure these kids get what they need. Your students get what they need. The people that are in your charge and in your care get what they need. The other 2 things that I would definitely like to see is involvement, because we can talk about the data all day long, and data is important, but we got to make sure that the teacher is involved, and that data mixes into that. But there's so many other compartments of the educational experience that the teacher must be invested in order to make sure that again, you're educating the whole student. And then investment, because that takes you well beyond your 9 to 5. I'm not packed up at the end of the day saying, hey, I don't want to see y'all anymore. I hope I never run into you again until Monday. That's not investment. Investment says, I'm going to take the extra time to talk to you, outside about your attendance, to talk to you and say, hey, listen, you need to do this. How is that happening? How is that occurring? I definitely want to see those things.
I was gonna talk about whenever I'm sure that, because they were talking about what would my evaluation system be, and I'm guessing that the one that's sent down by the district involves all kinds of numbers and that sort of stuff. So the first thing that I would do in mine was just make sure that we're not talking about numbers. because I think that whenever you assign a teacher a number and you give them, hey, you're a 3 out of 5, that is just really, it's just debilitating to the teacher, because I have always taught in a TAP school, and I don't know if anybody knows what TAP is, but TAP is it's a stringent number system. So they sit there and they will give you a number, and I've been in schools where you would teach and they would say, it doesn't matter how good of a teacher you are, the best we're giving you is a 3. And whenever you're a teacher and you get told, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm going to give you a 3, and that's good, and accept it, then that just beats you down. And as teachers, we all strive for perfection, and we're always striving for that 5. So we will beat ourselves up over how we get that 5. And so just doing away with the number system, on an evaluation system, I think will do a lot. And we said about, as a teacher, it's what am I doing well? You're sitting there and it's a lot of reflection, and the evaluation system, you gotta do your reflection. And, like we said before, hey, you want to raise and you want to praise, one good thing and one bad thing. What can we raise up and what can we praise? And if you can do more internal, evaluation system, and that's really what you want to do. You want to make the kids, or you want to make the teachers reflect. If they're reflecting, they're thinking about what they're doing. If you can get a teacher to reflect, I would argue that that's more important and more beneficial for a teacher reflection than getting a 3 in, did I do my lesson plans this week? So, that reflection piece is a big deal, and making sure that those teachers know what you value. And, with your, I don't think you can quantify it, but another one of the things that I heard this week is sometimes you lead with your heart. And as that principal, you can't quantify how you feel about, and somebody might be a great teacher, but they just might not be a great fit for your school. And sometimes, if somebody doesn't share that vision, or somebody does share that vision, it doesn't show up on a 1 to 5 grading sheet on how well that teacher actually means to you. Keeping those extra hours, staying with those kids, doing that extra morning tutoring, it doesn't quantify, and it doesn't look like you're doing that for the district. But as the principal, you kind of know with your heart who those people are, and you want to surround yourself with those people.
Those hard workers.
And I add to that, especially what Mr. Bonaparte was saying, showing some evidence of parent contact. Have you been in contact with the parents? And also showing some evidence of you working as a team within the school. Working with your grade level teachers, or vertical articulation in some form. Are you working as a team, not in isolation, which is what the whole PLC is all about.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead. We have about 5 minutes, so we're going to move on to number 2. It says, how would you get staff members to support your new evaluation system?
We probably could do 2 and 3 together in interest of time. And how would
the new evaluation system be used?
Yeah.
Well, since we're already using one, I think in the reading it says we're already using one that the district is handing down. The one that I want to use is probably not going to be punitive. It's more for development. So it's disarming. It's like, okay, hey, this is not something to say, this is just for improvement purposes, basically. We just want to improve. We just want to get better. However we can phrase that, we need to phrase it so it says, hey, we just want to get better. We can all get better. There's nothing that, better than working on the work, so to speak. And then I think if we just, if you use it in a way that, again, that's disarming, I think, and also let the teachers have buy-in. Let them say what they want to be evaluated on, and there we go.
And give them an opportunity to self-reflect. Typically, teachers, adults will be honest about their strengths and weaknesses. If you give them an opportunity to self-reflect and then self-correct, and then offer, suggestions or offer support in that self-correcting, I think that would be more beneficial and valuable, and people will be more receptive to it as well. I think so.
Yep.
Right. I just kind of want to piggyback off of Nathaniel. Definitely, that's the big thing that I put down, to allow input for the new system, because people are more susceptible to buy into something when they have ownership of it. So I definitely would do that. And then just to answer the third question, how will it be used? I don't know how I was thinking how often you would use it. I don't know. What do y'all think? Would every quarter be too much, or just to give yourself that self-reflection, each quarter? And there goes my thing messing up again. I'm frozen again. Ugh, I hope this thing doesn't mess up.
And you're doing that, would you want your kid in that classroom? And a lot of times whenever you're saying, hey, would you want your kid in that classroom, that teacher's going to sit there and say, well, yeah, okay, well, I need to do this because I wouldn't want my kid in that classroom if that was the case. I wouldn't want me as a teacher. I wouldn't want this person as a teacher. And we all know those teachers, and we all know those teachers that do it well. For the way that, for using it, I was talking about, if you can take the teachers and identify some strengths in some teachers and use your evaluation system to identify strengths, then you can form some groups and some committees with those teachers with those strengths. Hey, you have a first year teacher that really isn't doing.
I'm gonna have to go and watch the video.
Shh.
Students, school, teachers, everyone, and it's, people won't be so beat down at the end of the day. So I agree, and everybody said the same thing.
Well, and I think you learn from failure. You learn from mistakes. You learn from
Let y'all have a meeting. I don't know what's wrong with the internet today. I hope Camille's not up there watching Netflix because the internet keeps going in and out. I got a poor connection today.
and you're or the evaluation system?
Just along the lines of if like Ms. Battle said about the I got you. I wonder, is it possible to construct